All right, welcome back to another episode of Blam Blam Truckers. Tonight, I'm going to be talking to you once again about the Transformers D6 unofficial uh, role-playing core rulebook as created by the High King. Want to give the boy props. We're going to be talking about the last part of Chapter 2. Finally, we come to the end. Of chapter 2 anyway. Chapter 3 is a lot of fun. This is probably my least favorite addition that he made to the game. Um, it's the disabilities section. Not that disabilities are a problem in real life, but in this game, and I loved it when he came out with it too, because I'm like, this is awesome. Now I get to have more powers. And then I immediately found out how to break it. And, well, we'll get into it as we get through it. I thought it was great. The more and more I played with it, and the more I use it in my games, the less I liked it, and now I don't like it at all. Kind of like how I feel about Episode 1 sometimes, and the prequel trilogy. Loved them when they came out, loved the first movie, and then I watched it 16,000 times, and every time it was like, that maybe it wasn't as good. Maybe the critics have a point. Something I never felt with the original trilogy of Star Wars, which is too bad, but people like different things, and there's people who love those prequels. Love those prequels. So anyway, we're in the disabilities section. Uh, I've received a few PMs regarding EXP points to gain extra abilities, as it is stated in the rules, so he goes over how to fix that. This is one of the last changes he made to the core rulebook, by the way. If a character has 0 in a specific field, yeah, he covers that. You can read it on screen. You can pause and read it for yourselves. Yeah, we covered this. I covered my alternative method in a previous video. There may be a way around all of this. And he's right. This is disabilities is creating a way around this. So this is the opposite of abilities, and it gives you're going to trade off an in-game disability for an in-game ability. So, and he put up some really great guidelines. Like, this may be my least favorite section, the part I don't use at all in my games, but it's not bad, though I did break it pretty quickly. Some players may want to round their characters out a bit more, and now they can for an additional price, but one that can actually be fun. With abilities, there come disabilities, and of course, there are more guidelines. Let's go over his guidelines. Guideline numero dot. Notice I didn't use numbers on here. GMs set the limit a player can have in disabilities and have final say over disabilities to be added. I like that rule. Generally speaking, I would do so by looking at the amount of special abilities that exist and not allow the player to pick beyond half the amount for disabilities. I've tried that rule. It does unfortunately work out. For example, if the player has 4 special abilities, I would allow 2 disabilities. One has to be flexible with this, and that's what I'd look at first. A character cannot take disabilities that don't affect existing systems. It's a good rule in place, but this is a rule I broke. For example, a character cannot take fast burn if they don't have an integrated energy-based weapon. Fast burn is a very impactful disability. A character cannot take disabilities that are specific anti-ability if they have the ability. For example, a character cannot take weak if the character has super strength, because they would negate each other. Why would you do that? A disability is worth 1 point for 1 point trade for abilities, or it can be matched for other points as well. For example, so in Class 1, special abilities come in at 1 point for 1 point out of your integrated systems. In Class 2, it's a 2 to 1 ratio, and in Class 3, it's a 3 to 1 ratio. He covers that there. It also goes the opposite way. So if you want to take your ability point that you get from taking a disability, and turn that into other things inside your integrated systems, it goes in reverse. If you're a Class 3 and you get an extra ability, now you have 3 integrated points for the other categories to play with. Same with, it's 2 points for a Class 2 and 1 point for a Class 1. Class 1s were really designed to have lots of special abilities, or they allow themselves to have lots of special abilities. Disability descriptions. So now he's going to go into them. So each pick gets you another ability point. Accident prone, 3. You can have up to 3 picks. Corresponding ability usually goes with super speed. Story factor. Which doesn't mean you can't. It's the corresponding ability is if you have super speed, it makes sense to have accident prone. It's not like weak and strong. Okay, super weak and super strong. This disability is a combination of several factors: lack of impulse control and being uncoordinated, usually at the most inopportune times. On running, driving, and piloting checks, difficulties are raised one level per pick of this disability. That's powerful in game. So an easy run becomes moderate with one pick, difficult with two picks, and very difficult with three picks. You're hindering yourself significantly with this uh, disability. Achilles heel. A certain part of the character, and again, you can have up to three picks of this. A certain part of the character is specifically vulnerable to attack. Um, this actually goes into the game. There, this goes back into G1. Bruticus had a spot on his back, three spots if I remember correctly, that if he shot all three spots, he would automatically disengage and turn back into his combiner parts. That's not that bad, actually. An Achilles heel is not a bad one. It's not the game breaker. I'll show you the game breaker when we get to it. Bleeder. Some injuries will cause a Cybertronian to leak energon. If you're a bleeder, then that means that usually any injury received makes you leak energon. Personally, I go with anything that wounds you makes you lose energon, because if you're just stunned, there's nowhere for it to leak out of. Uh, yeah, that gets this gets expensive very fast. This is going to hurt your in-game playing. It's going to but you get another special ability. Does that offset it? Personally, I wouldn't allow you to be a bleeder and have quadritanium armor, or quadritanium skin. Sorry. Chronic malfunction 3. This is the game breaker, boys and girls. It doesn't matter how many maintenance checks are done, there is some fundamental flaw that will not go away that involves a key system. This is not a disability specifically geared towards the senses of a robot. This involves tools and or integrated weapons. The player must pick a specific tool or weapon. Basically, the way it works is anytime a roll is made involving the specific integrated weapon or tool, the wild dice will be the determinant on whether there is a jam or worse. If there's a jam or an explosion, you have to repair the tool before you can use it again. And if you hit irreparable or explosion, then you have to go back and repair it after combat, not during combat. A jam can be fixed in combat, an irreparable or an explosion can't. Now, and this is where he goes into details on that. Irreparable means you've got to take it apart and put it back together again, basically. So here's how this ability breaks the game. You can have up to 3 picks on one item, whether it's a gun or a physical state weapon or an integrated tool system. So it has to be an integrated weapons or an integrated tool. So what you do is you pick something that you're never, ever going to rely on for combat, that you don't build your character around. If you have 2 picks of tools, or even 1 pick of tools, is worth 3 tools. Only one of those tools needs to have this disability, needs to have the chronic malfunction disability. So you take one tool that you don't build your character around, like, I don't know, the winch. You're shooting out a line. Okay. Then again, that can be something useful, so it doesn't make your GM go, oh, wait a minute, he's just using it on a tool. Okay, great. It's a winch. You could use it to save a life, but it's something you're not building your character around. So, or your saw, or something that, again, like, if I wanted to do this on someone like Doc, who needs all of his medical equipment, I would then, because this is going to give me, a lot more than what I'm giving up. I would say that I would pick something that had nothing to do with being a doctor, like, I don't know, his neural charger. That's his only weapon. He's got a neural charger now, which he doesn't in the current build, but he could. I could rebuild him for that. And so now he has, a neural charger. So I'm getting 2 tools for free off of that. And at a class 2, I'm getting 5 tools worth of stuff to lose 1 tool that I'm just not going to use. It's game breaking and it's allowed. And frankly, I've built some characters that do this. They take 3 picks on 1 tool. That gives them 3 special abilities, which, going by the guidelines, means they should have 6 abilities all said and done, which I'm getting 3 more points off of that, off of 1 broken tool. Now you can do the same thing with one of your weapons. Let's say you have 5D in, or you only have 1 point into integrated weapon, you're class 2 or class 3, and you only have 1 point because it's not worth it with a class 1. You only have 1 point into integrated weapon fuel consuming or ammo consuming. Okay, so you've got 1 weapon that uses ammo and only does 1d damage. Let's even say it's a rocket, so it's your area effect. Okay, you put 3 picks of chronic malfunction on it, and now you can't use your rocket that barely does any damage. Yeah, it's not getting something for nothing, it's getting something for very, very little. Um, I do not approve, I will not approve chronic malfunction as a GM. It is a game breaker. I don't like disabilities in general. There's other ways to break the game in here. You're going to see some of them. Yeah. Error prone. This disability is a combination of several factors, lack of impulse control and being uncoordinated, usually at the most inappropriate times. Difficulties are raised by 1 level per pick of this disability. Again, this is going to have a bigger impact on the game than any bonus you're going to get from a special ability. Fast burn. This disability doubles the amount of energon that is taken per the usage of an integrated energy weapon, which means you need to have an integrated energy weapon. So you could take 1 pick of this and decide you're going to have an integrated energy weapon that you don't build your character around, throw it on at a 1D value, and if you're a class 3, you're getting effectively 2Ds worth to play around with in your integrated systems in exchange for giving up 1D on an integrated energy weapon you're never going to use. I know, it's the min-maxer in me. I'm always looking for a way to exploit the game. There's a reason why I don't like this section. And you guys are going to hear all about it, but you guys may love it. And I know people who play it straight, and I can be that guy, but it takes a lot of willpower. Flaws/psychosis. I hate this in particular. Flaws should be part of your character. You shouldn't have to need to be rewarded to make a flawed character. In fact, you're going to find out your character is flawed anyway, whether it's the flaw you designed for them or one that you get through playing where they're a little too selfish or whatever. Yeah. That's always annoyed me. But, this should just be part of normal wanting to do normal roleplay. Not that you should necessarily create a character with huge flaws, but you're also impacting the rest of the group by having a flaw or a psychosis that's really, really bad. Like a flaw to social skills. Yeah. Or a fear of heights or something. He shouldn't need to be rewarded to want to roleplay, which drives me up a wall, and it's a personal thing. There's a reason I don't do this section. There's many reasons, and you're hearing them all. Sorry, guys. Fragile, 3. It's the opposite of quadritanium skin, so you can't take it with quadritanium skin. This disability drops the character's armor rating down 1 class size per pick. Ouch. So if you're a class 3, you resist as a class 2. With 2 picks, you resist as a class 1. With 3 picks, you resist as if you're human. Yeah. I don't think there's any special ability worth taking this, personally. Heavy. Corresponding ability. It works with quadritanium skin or It works really well with quadritanium skin. It works really well with super strength. You cannot take it with super speed. Being heavy isn't always a disadvantage because it allows you to lift more. It also, however, is going to slow you down, as you'll see through here. You're going to have to make extra stamina rolls, but you're going to be able to lift a lot more if you're heavy. So this one is kind of balanced. The only problem is, in my games, as I told you back when we talked about weight and character at the beginning of Chapter 2, I don't use weight in character creation. It's too many things to keep track of during the game for me. So I just kind of just let that go. So heavy doesn't work for me. Irreparable sensory damage. 3 picks per system. You pick eyes, ears, nose, whatever. And yeah, that goes a little bad. So if with 3 picks, you're blind. Like Bumblebee in the movie, I think actually inspired this because he had 3 picks of sensory damage. He couldn't talk at all. So he got his 3 special abilities right off that. So yeah, this could work. You could make a blind character and get an advantage for it. This kind of goes into other role-playing systems outside of D6. I get that other role-playing systems use disabilities and abilities more often. Feats, as it were, for D&D version 3.0 and up. Yeah. It corresponds to doing spot checks with your sensory abilities. It would put you at negative 2D with 1 pick, negative 4D for search and spot and whatever with vision or hearing. Negative 2D at 1 pick, negative 4D at 2 picks, and negative 3D at 6 picks only applies to the specified sensory system. This isn't a bad one. You know, it can work. Learning disability. It turns a skill into an advanced skill. So again, this is a quick and easy workaround. Pick a skill you're never going to use. And if your GM requires it to be something you think you would use, make it something like swimming, which Transformers don't need to breathe. So you can just walk along the bottom of the pool. You never have to make a swimming roll, if water even comes up. And swimming is a major one. So, and not only that, since it only makes it an advanced skill in terms of advancement, if you're sitting at 4D strength, you still have 4D in swimming, which is a professional level of swimming. It just impacts. So you pick a skill you're never planning on improving, like swimming, or I don't know, blaster repair. You're not a blaster character, or first aid. You're not playing a character, you're playing a warrior character who's lousy at first aid. You're never planning on improving first aid. You improve it as a character, you improve it enough to have it at 2D or 3D or wherever you want it to be, and you're never planning on improving it. You pick this, you put it on an essential skill you're never planning on improving, and you get your free special ability. I know. I'm horrible. I know I am, but it comes from all the beta testing I used to do, and beta testing not just in video games, but also I'm a bug. I look for bugs. I look for ways to exploit the game. I take advantage of them. Yeah, that's part of what I do. It's part of what I look for. There's a reason why I don't use this section. Low pain tolerance. The combat and injuries table that shows how wounds are handled is in Chapter 6. Below is a modified showing of that table if a player character takes the low pain tolerance. Yeah, so it really impacts you really bad in this game. I would recommend not taking low pain tolerance. I don't think it's worth it. Short battery reduces your energon reserve to 50 from 100. Or your tap. Sometimes he calls it an energon tap. But your pool, your energon pool, is now taken down to 50. Now, some of you are like, that's awful, and some of us are like, okay, so I don't take any energon consuming weapons. I don't take any, and I keep my tools at low level, and I throw on a solar port. Never need to get down to 50. All of the rest of my stuff is all fuel consuming. This is not a bad one to take, honestly, depending on your build. You're not going to be the super sniper who uses charger and sniper special abilities to um, do ridiculous amounts of damage. I mean, that's a maximum of an additional plus 5d to your range damage under the right circumstances. Wow. So, okay, but you don't do that build. You build somebody like Grunt. Grunt does not have any energon consuming weapons at all. He uses an ion pistol, he uses his fists, and maybe down the road I would have wanted something, but if I took short battery, I'd get another special ability. I don't even know what I take with that for Grunt, but he doesn't use his battery at all. His pool, his energon pool, whatever you want to call it. Even with his the tools that I took for him, I gave him 3 solar ports. What do you call that? Ground, which halves ion damage. So ground, 3 solar ports, and a parachute and an inner tube. So he can, if he falls, basically Grunt was designed to survive anything. Ridiculously strong. If he falls out of a plane, he uses the parachute. If he's in an ocean and he's worried about crush damage, he has the armored inner tube to bring him back to the surface. That takes care of 2 of his 2 major environmental hazards. And then ground deals with ion damage, because ion damage ignores armor, which we're going to get to later. And that gives him a lot of defense against ion damage and null rays. And yeah, that's it. Those are all of his tools. None of them. And then he has 3 solar ports, and those solar ports fill him with energon. Grunt is effectively immortal. He's not. He can be killed, but he's so ridiculously strong, and he doesn't use any energon except for walking around. He's just this. I love the character. But short battery, if I took short battery, well, it doesn't have an impact on the playstyle. And doesn't have really any impact on his playstyle. Top heavy, corresponding ability usually goes with quadritanium skin. Big guys with broad shoulders and armor are as heavy as they are. The bigger they are, the harder they fall, but it's also hard for them to get back up again. So much so that they need to roll a very difficult stamina roll in order to lift themselves back onto their feet within 2 rounds. Now, here's the thing about very difficult rolls. An average, a very, very difficult roll is a roll of 70 to 8D. Not easy to get. It usually takes 1 round to go from prone to standing, and you do it without a roll. So after 2 rounds, I would say you'd be able to get up on your own. That would be my GM call, my GM reading of this. But not a bad pick, honestly. If you're strong enough, then you're making very difficult rolls anyway. Not a big deal. Something to think about if your GM allows these. Weak, 1. Corresponding ability is the opposite of super strength. Cannot be taken with super strength. Story factors. Think super strength except backwards. Okay. This only impacts lifting your strength skills. It impacts all your strength skills, and it impacts how much damage you do with melee damage. Okay. That kind of sucks. It reduces your melee damage by 1 class level, so roughly 2D, unless you're a class 4 transformer, but you wouldn't take this as a class 4, and you can't play a class 4 anyway. Okay, cool, that works. This would have almost no impact on a character like Doc, who doesn't use his strength skills. He just doesn't. He's not built for it. You get a sniper character, maybe they could take weak. If they're never doing, hand-to-hand combat, then they don't have to worry about the damage there. Most combat, except for brawling, is handled by dexterity, and it does not, weak in particular, does not impact the amount of damage you take, because you resist damage with strength. So weak is not factored into your damage resist. So if you're doing non-melee damage, then, or damage with an energy weapon, which isn't impacted by your strength anyway, like an energy sword, or an energy knife or whatever, then this would have low impact on your gameplay, on your game style. It's not a bad pick to get uh, an extra special ability. Worn out, corresponding ability none, just you're old. So, where is the end game? Double healing time, so it takes you twice as long to heal. Movement hindered. Uh, Moving speed for humans and Cybertronians are 3/4 pace, both vehicle and robot mode. That's not good. Transformation time hindered, so your transformation time is done at double time. This is a really big impact on the game. I would not recommend taking that. And that is all of Chapter 2. This took 25 minutes, which isn't bad. Next is Chapter 3, Weapons, Tools, and Equipment. This is a huge chapter. I might do it tonight if I can't find something else to do. Yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it. I know I was very negative in this chapter. Sorry, guys. I didn't mean to be. Look at that amazing MS Paint art he does, though. Great. So many compliments. So many. I know I get critical of this, and that's my GM talking. I really appreciate everything THK did. This is an amazing game system. I think it's the best Transformers game system I've ever seen. I really like it. I really appreciate the guy as a friend, and I gave him. I said almost all of these things to him face to face. Some of the things that came up after we lost contact with each other, I didn't get a chance to talk to him about. We could disagree with each other and still be friends. He's a great guy. So much appreciation for THK. Thanks for doing this, buddy. And now this is even available on the internet, which I put the link in the first couple of videos and all the other videos. Hopefully, I'll remember to do it in this one too. I hope you guys enjoyed your time with me today. This is Bees from Blam Blam Truckers telling you all to keep on trucking, you Blam Blam Truckers. Tally ho.